The following is a re-recording of a presentation given in person at Saratoga Retirement Community. Okay, so there's another person who would like to give an introduction.
Hello, Saratoga Retirement Community. Hope everyone's doing well. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of artificial intelligence with our expert, Lonnie. He's going to break down what AI is, what it can do now, and where it might be heading. Quick tidbit before Lonnie jumps in. Even though I look and sound like any regular guy, I'm not real. I'm like a digital puppet. The video of me, my voice, even the words I'm saying right now, were all created by AI. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Lonnie.
Okay, given the laughing in the audience, it's clear everyone caught that. What you just saw was created entirely by AI. The words he said were even chosen by AI. I asked it to create an intro to my talk. I didn't specify what it would say. The words were written, and then the entire video and the voice was all generated by AI. So now, the talk is Artificial Intelligence in Plain English, Why Everyone's So Fascinated. And I start out with a quote on this slide that was from 1872. And I think it captures what a lot of people today are feeling. Samuel Butler said, "I fear none of the existing machines. What I fear is the extraordinary rapidity with which they are becoming something very different to what they are at present." So before we get going, I want to take a quick audience survey. So raise your hand if it fits. So who's heard AI discussed a lot this year? Okay, about 80% of the audience raised their hand. How many of you would say you've been hearing it maybe 10 times more than last year or more than that? Looks like about the same 80%. So we'll find out why that is during this talk. Now, is there anyone here who has no idea what the term artificial intelligence even means? Okay, there's no hands. Might mean people are too embarrassed, or it might just mean people have some idea. Who's excited and optimistic about the promises of AI? About 40% of the hands are up. Who's concerned that AI might be more harmful than beneficial? About 40% of the hands, with somebody in the back waving two hands. And is anyone concerned that AI might exterminate humanity? I hear some laughter. No hands, though. Okay. So let's get into it. So for today's journey, we're going to talk about what artificial intelligence is, how it might be different from other technologies, and what's at stake. And then we'll talk about where AI is today, how it already touches all of your lives, probably in ways you don't realize. And we'll talk about impressive examples of AI, and we'll actually see some demos using some of the state-of-the-art systems today. Then we'll talk about the recent rate of progress and what that means for the long-term future of humanity, including the risks and the societal impacts. So on my slides, you're going to see a lot of images that were created by artificial intelligence. This one is my favorite. I think this is an artistic masterpiece. It has brought together the use of metaphor and composition in just an absolutely masterful and creative way. So I ask it to create an image to capture the essence of my talk based on the text on my outline slide. It was actually a previous talk that was roughly the same, but it came up with this. And we see this pathway into the future with the dawning of a new era rising up in the sky, shining brightly, but looming in the background are the dark storm clouds of risk. And as we go on this journey, we're going to be passing through many milestones and tests over uncharted rocky territory. And in the distance loom the great pillars of general intelligence. Now it's chosen all those metaphors itself and put it together in this composition that holds totally together. And it's chosen textures and colors that just invite you on this journey, but still kind of leave this sort of foreboding feeling. Now, like I say, I think this is an artistic masterpiece up there with some of the greatest human artists. I mean, this is absolute creativity. Now, it wasn't 5 years ago that I heard people, even AI experts, saying that computers would never be creative, especially they'd never master human artistic creativity. Well, I think they're wrong. Here we are. We're there today. Computers are creative. So the slide you saw on the previous, the picture you saw on the previous slide was also drawn by artificial intelligence. So what is artificial intelligence, or AI? Well, it's the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. I think that's fairly straightforward. The term artificial intelligence was coined in the summer of 1956, and that also marks the beginning of the field of artificial intelligence. So the field of study is now 67 years old. I joined the field as a graduate student 35 years ago. So I've been connected to the field for a little over half the time that the field has existed. We see on the screen another image generated by DALL-E 3 based on the definition that's on this slide. So as we proceed down this journey today, I'd like you to keep this big question in mind. Is AI just another technological advance like every other technological advance in human history? Or is this time somehow fundamentally different? And I have another quote here, this one from 1965 from the mathematician I.J. Good, who said, "The first ultra-intelligent machine is the last invention that man need ever make, provided that the machine is docile enough to tell us how to keep it under control." There's a lot packed into that quote. It's very poetic in a way. Okay, so what do I mean by just another technological advance? Well, there's this repeating pattern that new technologies go through as they emerge. So people often stand up and say, this emerging technology is going to be horrible for society. It's going to cause massive job losses and all sorts of other problems. Like this guy, when the automobile was being introduced, the carriage drivers and the stable hands, the manure scoopers and the, I don't know what else, the blacksmiths are all going to be losing their jobs. It'll be horrible. But what actually happens? Well, some job categories do in fact decline or disappear, and that's bad for the people who are in those areas. But new types of jobs are created, and the number of new jobs ends up being more than the number of jobs lost. And across society, the overall standard of living ends up increasing. And this has happened over and over and over. At the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, when mechanical looms were being introduced, the Luddites famously rose up, rioting about how their jobs would be lost. Well, in the long run, the Industrial Revolution ended up lifting the standards of living of everyone tremendously. It repeated with the automobile, the tractor, the computer, ATMs and banking, e-commerce and retail, and hundreds of other examples in modern times. So why does this continually repeat like this? Well, it turns out there are strong, robust reasons for it. You see, if I'm a consumer and suddenly the automobile comes on the scene, well, I no longer have to maintain my horses and my stables and all the supplies and effort and food to go into that. And I need less land. And because transportation costs fall, other products become cheaper. And the net effect is I find myself with, let's say, $500 extra every month. So what does a consumer do with that? That money doesn't just disappear. And that's why those predictions go wrong. Instead, the consumer usually spends it. He buys new goods and services, creating new jobs, or he works less, which frees up his old job for someone else. And because the technology has made things more efficient, on balance, more jobs end up being created than destroyed. So now, artificial intelligence is a collection of technologies. Will it play out in the same way, or is there some reason to believe it might be something different? Well, one possible reason to think there might be a difference this time is because instead of simply introducing a new invention, artificial intelligence seeks to automate the process of invention itself. It seeks to automate intelligence. Intelligence has been called the largest source of power there ever has been. Consider, why are humans the dominant species on this planet? The gorilla is completely at our mercy. We've relegated it to a small patch of land in Eastern Africa, and its fate rests in our hands. But if you compare the physical characteristics of a gorilla to a human, it's hard to understand how we ever came to dominate this species. The answer, of course, is intelligence. Our ancestors used intelligence to outsmart their predators and their prey, and then to innovate, and then to communicate those innovations to others and to their descendants. And through that process, we rose to become the dominant species. So now we are seeking to endow computers with intelligence. Okay? Who knows? We may end up with computers that are smarter than we are, maybe a lot smarter. So, once again, think about the big question. Is artificial intelligence just another technological advance, or is it somehow different this time? Potential benefits. Okay, so what happens if we succeed and things go really well? What's at stake? Well, you might expect these advances, given that they're going to make things faster, cheaper, better, safer, more reliable, to raise the standard of living of everyone on Earth to a respectable level. That alone would constitute a tenfold increase in world GDP, which would be worth about 13.5 quadrillion US dollars in net present value. I credit this, by the way, to a talk by Stuart Russell. That is an enormous amount of money. I mean, it dwarfs any other enterprise ever undertaken by humankind. And so you can see why the big companies are rushing to be the first there. There is a lot at stake. But this is just the beginning. It promises to accelerate scientific progress. It may help us solve problems, or solve problems for us that are too hard for us to solve ourselves. As an example, there are scientists today that believe that biological aging can be halted, possibly even reversed. Such a breakthrough would practically end degenerative diseases like heart disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's, and would increase human healthy lifespan dramatically. Now, this isn't just some future fantasy. Some of these same scientists are applying AI today to try to help them figure out how to do so. AI might help us solve some of the great environmental problems like climate change, or develop nuclear fusion energy, or increase the carrying capacity of the planet so it can sustain even larger populations sustainably. Now, this acceleration of scientific progress, again, is not something we have to wait for. It's already happening today. In fact, in 2023, 8% of all scientific publications are mentioning the use of AI in the title or abstract. So this is something new also. It's just kind of got going in the last few years, and it's increasing quick. AI promises to give us more control over our own time. As AI takes over tasks that we don't want to spend our time on, it frees us up to focus on the things we do want to spend our time on. AI promises to personalize education, potentially greatly improving education for everyone, everywhere. Studies have shown that students learn 2 to 3 times faster with one-on-one personalized tutoring. And so here AI could play that role and not create a shortage of teachers in the process. And it could potentially democratize opportunity and capabilities. Mustafa Suleiman talked about this. Even the common man now, if you had a grand vision, might be able to pursue their grand vision if they have an AI next to them that can guide them through that process, because the AI would be super knowledgeable. So, these huge visions and following them through won't just be Elon Musk. It'll open it up to everybody and not just the ultra elite. Okay, so today, AI already touches all of you daily, and you probably don't even realize it. So this is actually a very new phenomena. For most of the time I've been in the field, AI has been kind of a fringe field. It hasn't really seen mass adoption. Mass adoption maybe started to get going 10 years ago, but most of this has happened in the last 5 years. And now today, AI is just pervasive. Anywhere computers are used, you see AI algorithms. And I've listed here a number of examples that I think touch this audience. And I'm going to go through just a few of these. So the first area where AI touches you daily is content recommendation. So if you watch movies or TV shows, say on Netflix, you'll see it recommend movies for you. If you buy things, say on Amazon, you'll see it recommend products that you might be interested in. If you use social media like Facebook, AI content recommendation systems are choosing what to show you next and in what order. And if you ever see advertisements online, those advertisements are being selected for you using content recommendation algorithms. If you use closed captioning while you're watching TV or movies, these closed captions today are transcribed by AI. It listens to what's being said and it transcribes it. So you don't need a human transcriber doing that. Anytime you make a financial transaction with a credit card, debit card, check, online, AI algorithms are watching, looking for fraud and forgeries. Anytime you take a picture with your cell phone, advanced AI algorithms are running on your cell phone to make that picture look better and enhance it. When you go to the doctor and you get an X-ray or a CAT scan or an MRI, it's very likely that AI algorithms are being used to help process that image. About 10 years ago, AI algorithms ended up outperforming human radiologists, meaning they were more accurate at detecting cancer in X-rays. And at that time, a lot of people were saying the field of radiology is about to disappear. It's going to be replaced by AI. Well, today, radiologists are in more demand than ever. In fact, there's a shortage of radiologists. What actually happened was, as a result of those predictions, in the last 10 years, nobody new has entered the field. And of course, some radiologists have retired. So we ended up with a shortage of radiologists. What has actually happened is those tools are now used by radiologists to help them improve their productivity and their accuracy. Okay? And finally, we get to deep fakes, a potentially negative aspect of AI. So AI can produce videos that look ultra realistic. And as we go into the election season, it's likely you might see videos of, say, Joe Biden or Donald Trump or some other politician saying something embarrassing or inflammatory, or maybe even more unusual, saying something that's not embarrassing and inflammatory. It turns out it never happened. What you're seeing is not real, but it looks absolutely real. You can't basically not tell. So we're going to see an example of a deep fake here. What you're going to see is not the actor Morgan Freeman. This was created by AI algorithms.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
All right. So remember the little guy at the beginning that gave the introduction to the talk? That's basically the same technology as this. For me, I was able to do that on a website, HeyGen, in just a few minutes. And, it was not hard. So you can imagine as we get into the election season, it's going to be hard to figure out what's real. Just this week, a report came out from the Freedom House that found that political leaders in 16 countries, including the US, have used deep fakes in the past year to sow doubt, smear opponents, or influence public debate. And so these things are happening. And equally concerning is there have been instances where public figures have denied a video of an embarrassing event, saying it was a deep fake when it in fact wasn't. So again, it's going to be very hard to find our way through these things and know what's real and what's not. Okay, so now I'm going to transition from things that affect you every day to some of the great accomplishments of AI. And the program AlphaFold, in my opinion, is AI's greatest accomplishment to date. In 2020, it solved the protein folding problem, which was considered one of the most important open problems in science. This is the problem of figuring out what the 3D structure of a protein molecule is, given its DNA or amino acid sequence. And they went on past that to basically publish the three-dimensional structure of every protein known to science, like 200 million or more of them. And overnight, this has transformed how pharmacological and biological research is conducted. Scientists are able to do experiments now on the computer millions of times faster than was possible in the test tube prior. So this is speeding up drug discovery and development rapidly. And I think this is a Nobel Prize in the wings for certain. I mean, I was shocked it didn't win the Nobel Prize 2 weeks ago, but I think it will soon. Next, the company Cruise started operating 100 fully autonomous robotaxis in California in 2022. These cars drive themselves around busy San Francisco without a driver. They pick up passengers and drop them off. This constitutes really a major milestone for AI. The program is expanding with other companies and other cities. Decoding brain signals. So there are some AI systems that look at brain signals in various ways and produce an image of what you're thinking. And there's another AI system that looks at brain signals and produces English sentences of what you're thinking. So these systems literally read your mind. Now that's a scary idea, but consider the case of Ann Johnson. When she was 30, she had a stroke and it left her paralyzed and locked in her own body. So she could think normally, but she could not communicate with the outside world. So she was stuck in there for a couple decades. But then they took this technology and they hooked it up to her. And now when she thinks something, it comes out as English sentences on the screen, and it also pronounces it in her own voice based on speech samples from before her stroke. So here's an example of a scary technology, but it turned out wonderful for Ann Johnson. Transcribed glass. So this pair of glasses is being designed for the hearing impaired, and it's being designed by a startup company that's just down the road from here, literally only 6 miles from here. And when you wear these glasses, you see on the screen what people around you are saying, just like closed captioning. So these glasses are about to go into beta testing. And I guess if you're interested, you could go to Transcribe Glass website and sign up to be a beta tester. And now we get to DALL-E, which came out in 2021. This was the first program that could create art at a human competitive level, and really showing us that humans no longer have a monopoly on artistic creativity. And that gets us to our first demo. Okay, so let's see here if I can get this over here. Okay, so just before the talk started, I asked some members of the audience to come up with an idea for an original artwork that has never been done before. And we had several people contribute, and they came up with this: create an image of a unicorn with a headlight on a surfboard on a tropical island and make it photorealistic. So, so we're going to have this work on creating an image or images of this new idea, and it's going to take about 30 seconds. But when it finishes, we're going to see some images that are going to be original artwork that have never been seen by anyone before. It's drawing these, right here as we speak. Now, you could ask for any artistic style, surrealist, pop art, Dada, watercolor, so on, or even the style of an artist. And okay, and so here we go. So, so we have 4 pictures there. The headlight is the, yeah, pretty nice, huh? Okay. So that's basically, how I went about generating most of the pictures on these slides. Okay, now I want to consider a question. How does artificial intelligence differ from real human intelligence? And if you had asked this question just 9 months ago, I, or pretty much anybody, would have given you this standard answer. So artificial intelligence is narrow intelligence. An AI system is designed to solve one problem in one narrow domain, and it can solve that problem really well, often surpassing human capability, but only in that very narrow area. And if the problem gets just a little bit outside of that area, it starts to break quickly. It's brittle, and it can't solve problems that are in completely different domains or different types of problems. So we call that narrow intelligence. In contrast, humans exhibit general intelligence. We have a mastery across a broad spectrum of abilities and domains, and we have common sense. So if a problem gets a little off, we adapt, and we don't have that brittleness. We're robust. Okay. And for most of my career, this has been the standard story. This is how everybody described this difference until March 14th, 2023. And that is when that story changed. So on that day, the company OpenAI, which is a local company here, they're in San Francisco, introduced GPT-4. And this program just blew my mind. I mean, I've been following the technology and, where things are at. I've been trying the precursors to GPT-4. And when I tried that on March 14th, my whole worldview changed. I could not believe it had this level of capability already. So this is, in my opinion, the first AI that exhibits general intelligence. Not to be confused with human level intelligence. We're a long way from human level intelligence still. But the generality of GPT-4 is astounding. It operates competently in pretty much any domain you throw at it, from languages, literature, computers, mathematics, sciences, history, business, medicine and health, art, music, philosophy, law, and pretty much any other domain. And in all of those domains, it can do many different tasks. It can create content. It can answer questions. It can solve problems. It can tutor. It can critique, and so on. And it's one program, and you converse with it in English, okay, just like you would a human. So now we're going to go into a demo of GPT-4. And so let's go a new chat here. So I'm going to copy paste a few questions to save on typing. And here's the first example so you type this. And please translate this message that my granddaughter sent me into plain English that I can understand. Okay. Grandma, guess what? I got cuffed this week by a total snack, an absolute zaddy. We're Instagram official now, and I'm so pumped. He got us tickets to Coachella next month. Already planned our boho outfits and ordered flower crowns online. It's going to be so lit. Have you ever gotten messages like that from your grandkids? Well, let's see what GPT has to say about it. Okay. So it says, certainly, here's a translation of your granddaughter's message into plain English. Grandma, I have exciting news. I started dating someone this week who I find very attractive. We've announced our relationship on Instagram. It's very exciting. I'm very excited because he bought us tickets to the Coachella Music Festival next month. We already decided on our festival clothing, which has a bohemian style, and even ordered decorative flower headbands to wear. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now you can converse with it. You can ask it a little bit more, you know. So where is Coachella? Okay, so Coachella, specifically referring to the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, is held in the Coachella Valley in the Colorado Desert. It takes place at the Empire Polo Club in Indio, California, which is the Inland Empire Coachella Valley region of Southern California. The festival is named after the valley itself, and so on. So you keep asking it questions like that. Okay, now I want to switch over to something in a completely different domain, different type of thing. Okay, so here we're going to type, my name is James Thompson. I have a backyard garden, but I am finding it hard to maintain as I'm getting older. A young college student, Miss Emily Clark, lives nearby and has offered to do gardening services to make extra money for her tuition. We both reside in Saratoga, California. We've agreed on $20 an hour, Wednesdays and Saturdays, with the agreement starting on today's date. Please compose a legal agreement for this arrangement consistent with local laws. Okay. So, all right. So, little disclaimer about not being a lawyer, but then here it is. Gardening services agreement. Okay. As a little gardening services is made and entered into as of October 24th, 2023. This is the date I'm re-recording this. By and between James Thompson, an individual residing at, place to insert your address, in Saratoga, California, and Emily Clark, residing at this address in Saratoga, California, the service provider. So it has the services, it has compensation, it has the day and time, the duration. Each party may terminate the agreement at any time. Liability. The client acknowledges that the service provider is not responsible for any unintentional damage. So it's thought of things we didn't even mention. See that? The agreement contains entire agreements between the parties and supersedes all prior and contemporaneous understandings and so on. Oh, we say, oh, you know what? Oh yeah. I'll provide all the tools. Okay. All right. Okay. So now it rewrites it and it's going to add presumably a clause saying that. Okay. So there it is. Tools and equipment. The client shall provide all necessary tools and equipment. Okay. So, by the way, GPT-4 took the bar exam, which is what lawyers have to take people have to take to become lawyers, and it passed. Not only did it pass, it actually scored in the top 90th percentile. Okay. There we go. Let's try another one. Again, now I'm going to go into a completely different area. This time we'll do a literature analysis. Okay. So here we go. Cruella de Vil and Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz appear very different on the surface, but deep down they have much in common. So I came up with this because I thought these two were so different. How could they possibly have anything in common? So I thought it'd be fun to see what it comes up with. Write a short 2-paragraph essay on this topic. The dual facets of Cruella de Vil and Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Says, at first glance, Cruella de Vil, the glamorous yet wicked antagonist from 101 Dalmatians, and Dorothy, the innocent farm girl from The Wizard of Oz, seem poles apart. Cruella is often portrayed as the embodiment of vanity and greed, with an insatiable desire for fur coats made from skins of innocent puppies. On the other hand, Dorothy is a symbol of purity, hope, and quest for home and belonging. However, when one dwells deeper into their characters, striking similarities emerge that bridge the chasm between their outward personas. Okay, I'm interested to see what this will be. Both women are, in essence, driven by a deep-seated desire and an unwavering determination to achieve their goals. For Cruella, it's the pursuit of the perfect fur coat, a symbol of status and luxury. For Dorothy, it's the quest to return home to Kansas, a journey filled with challenges and self-discovery. Their paths are strewn with obstacles, yet both display an indomitable spirit to overcome them, revealing a shared trait of resilience. Furthermore, their interactions with other characters showcase their ability to influence and rally those around them, be it for good or ill. While their motivations and methods may differ, Cruella and Dorothy are both testament to the power of passion and the lengths one might go to achieve one's desires. So, pretty good, huh? Okay, and last example here, again, showing something completely different. Let's do a physics problem. Okay. A girl in a small boat in the middle of a small pond throws an anchor overboard. What happens to the water level of the pond? So you can think about that as it's working it out. So it says, when the girl throws the anchor overboard, the water level of the pond will actually decrease. Here's why. Okay. So I'm just going to read the last sentence. So the water level decreases because when the anchor was in the boat, it caused a larger volume of water to be displaced than when it is in the water. Okay. So we just saw examples of very diverse tasks in very diverse domains, and just kind of illustrating how general this is. Now, this technology that you just saw and that has arrived this year, or sort of matured this year, makes the computer user interface obsolete. Let's face it, computers are hard to use. I mean, just consider this typical interface that I see when I go to my bank, right? There's menu items, entry fields, buttons, scroll bars, tabs. There's links scattered all over the place on the page. And I go there with some task in mind. You know, I want to order some new checks. And I have to somehow map my intention onto the correct sequence of menu items and button clicks and links and this and that and the other to accomplish a task. I mean, sometimes I just give up and end up calling technical support. Well, this is unnecessary now. With this technology you just saw, we should just be able to tell it what we want, right? I want to order some checks and let it figure out how to map that to the right sequence of actions to make that happen, okay? It's going to take a little while for this transition to occur because makers of applications and websites and so on have to actually incorporate the new technology, but lots of people are working on that, and you know, it's hopefully is coming. So here we are 50 years after the introduction of the personal computer, and the computer can finally become easy to use courtesy of AI. All right, so now we're going to talk about the impressive rate of progress that is happening today. So Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, which is one of the most important AI labs today and is also local here in San Francisco, said this to Congress: the single most important thing to understand about AI is how fast it is moving. So how fast is it moving? Well, I found this graph, and this graph compares the state-of-the-art AI system on various capabilities that can be measured with benchmark tests to how humans do on those same benchmark tests. So the line across the top is human performance, and each of these lines is a different capability. So if we look at the yellow line, for example, which is image recognition, okay, this is the ability to look at an image and understand what it's an image of. right? So in 2009, computers were not capable of doing that. It scored 0. In 2012, there was a breakthrough. And then within just a few years, the algorithms reached human capability and then even got better than humans at that task. The little pink line, similarly, in 2016, computers scored 0 at reading comprehension. But within months, they actually improved to where they surpassed human capability at that. For language understanding, the little kind of light blue line, 2018 scored 0, and a year later, we're above human capability, and so on and so on. So, I look at research papers, weekly, and I see this progress, and it's like watching a time lapse or something. It's really quite astounding, kind of breathtaking to see how fast things happen. So that brings up the question, when will AI reach human capability? So I collected here several estimates that were made very recently, like in the last month, maybe 2. And these are some of the people that should be most qualified to make such an estimate. So Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, that local company I said is one of the most important AI labs, says we're 2 to 3 years away from that. Dennis Hassabis, the CEO of DeepMind, another really important AI lab, part of Google, says about 2030. Andrew Ng, one of the most well-known AI researchers, he's at Stanford, says about 30 to 50 years, maybe more. And Rodney Brooks, I think probably the world's best-known roboticist, says that's crazy. It's going to take 300 years to get there. So here we have the people most qualified to make an estimate for this, and the estimates range from 2 years to 300 years. So, estimates vary widely. And so, the bottom line is we don't really know when we'll get there. AI comes with many different kinds of risks, and I want to emphasize that it's different kinds of risks. So when you hear somebody talking about AI risk, it's good to kind of clarify which risk they're thinking of. So among the risks, there are first what I call disruptive risks. These, as it sounds like, create a lot of disruption, but, you potentially get over them. So we already talked about loss of jobs. There's a risk of AI creating or aggravating economic and social inequality. It'd be a really bad outcome if we end up with a world where the few people who own the computers running the big AI systems control the world's wealth, right? So we need to somehow think about how we can ensure that everyone shares in the spoils as we move forward. There's risks of erosion of privacy and freedoms, biases and disinformation. We already saw deep fakes, for example. AI technologies can be quite good at spreading disinformation, and AI systems, as we start relying on them to make important decisions for us, they often will pick up on society's biases. They're not intrinsically biased themselves, but they'll kind of infer biases from us. There was an example of a system at a company that was used to screen resumes, and it turned out it was rejecting any resume that had the word woman on it. So that was an example of a bias it picked up on that was undesirable. And then there's the danger that these AI systems might sort of make dangerous capabilities available to other people, allowing somebody to, telling somebody how they can make a virus in their kitchen or build a bomb or things like that. Then there are existential risks. These are risks that threaten our very humanity, our very survival. So they this is like, these risks, might exterminate humanity. So now that sounds a little weird when you hear it, and kind of hard to believe, but AI scientists are in fact very worried about this. So for example, here's a statement that was signed by over 1,400 of many of the top names in AI. It says, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. And like I said, signed by lots of really big name AI scientists. So, yeah, AI AI researchers are taking this risk seriously. Now, how does a computer program wipe out all of humanity? Well, there's a couple different ways that might happen. I guess the one I'm most worried about is misaligned superintelligence. This is where we create a system, a computer system that is smarter than we are, maybe much smarter, maybe smarter than all of humanity combined. And at that point, it can outsmart us. I mean, we, just like the gorilla is at our mercy, we're going to be at its mercy. Now, we designed that system. So, of course, we're going to design it to keep our best interests at heart, but we get it wrong. We get it a little bit wrong. That's the misaligned part. And that makes all the difference. So we might become a casualty as a side effect, like it decides to consume all the oxygen in the atmosphere for something else, or maybe intentionally, it figures out that the world would be better off without us. And at that point, what can we do? Another way is just extreme misuse, like by a genocidal maniac who is intent on killing everybody and leverages AI to help do that. Or it might amplify other existential risks, making nuclear war more likely or making accidents from biotechnology more likely. Okay. As we go into the far future now, the long-term future of humanity, by which I mean a few decades from now, AI is likely to be the dominant driver of societal transformations. And I think it's going to drive a lot of deep societal transformations. I have another quote here. Artificial intelligence is the future, not only for Russia, but for all humankind. It comes with colossal opportunities, but also threats that are difficult to predict. Whoever becomes the leader in this sphere will become the ruler of the world. And that was Vladimir Putin. So, some examples of why it will drive such big societal transformations. First of all, capitalism. So capitalism is the organizing principle of our society. You might think of capitalism as an economic system, but deep down, what it really is it is the convention that we have adopted for allocating resources at the societal scale. Okay. So it's the convention for how we decide to allocate resources. And it's the best such mechanism that we've stumbled on, right? It works. And, it doesn't seem like there's any alternative. Certainly the alternatives that exist have very poor track records. The trouble is, as we get to advanced AI, the basic principles that enable capitalism to work break down. And there's many examples of this. For example, one is that as work becomes optional, the motivation to ramp up supply side goes away. And there's many other reasons it breaks down. So eventually capitalism can be expected to become ineffective. So what are we going to replace it with, given that the alternatives have such bad track records? Well, maybe it'll be something completely new, perhaps AI protected humanism. That was a term I came up with, which here basically we rely on super powerful AI to figure out how to allocate resources optimally across society, okay, in order to sort of maximize our best interests. So, to be honest, I don't really know what we'll end up with, or if we'll be that or something else. But the point is, we're probably going to need new economic and maybe political systems going forward. And then, of course, there is the problem of authoritarian regimes. So these advanced AI, could look very attractive to authoritarian regimes and could really kind of cement them so that they are absolutely undeposable. And this isn't just a concern for China and Russia, but something we need to worry about in the United States as well. You can imagine how these technologies could seem attractive to anyone in power, as a way of controlling the population. And if we're not careful, that kind of adoption could drive even the United States towards authoritarianism if we're not careful. Okay. And finally, AI is likely to drive, or we are likely to need, major cultural changes to the very fabric of our culture, and really deep down. Like, for example, how do humans find purpose and fulfillment? And what are the cultural norms and cultural values we have to support those new senses of purpose and fulfillment? So for people who are lifted out of world poverty by AI, they'll probably get a lift of purpose and fulfillment automatically. But for the rest of us who drive a lot of our identity and sense of contribution from our career, as work becomes optional, there's going to be a void there. And somehow we're going to have to find new ways of finding that. I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know what it should be. It seems to me it's likely that we may see an increased emphasis on social connections and family, but other than that, I'm not real sure. However, it also strikes me that you guys in front of me right now, you guys are like the experts on this. I mean, you guys have experienced, by retiring, you've experienced work becoming optional, and you hopefully, have found new sources of purpose and fulfillment. So you understand this, and probably in a way the rest of us don't yet. And you're in a position to kind of have weigh in on how our culture ought to change, for everybody going forward, to really provide these kinds of human value stuff. So that gets us to the summary slide. So in summary, we are at the beginning of the great transformation. I think as historians look back, they're going to say it all got going in 2023. And this transformation is going to be big. It's going to be rapid. It could be one of the largest in human history. I mean, it could be on par with the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution, but it's going to happen on a much smaller timescale, much faster. How things transform is highly uncertain. I mean, you've seen expert opinions on pretty much everything are just all over the place. So we don't really know where it's going to get there. Most likely, we're going to end up with an amazing future, but there's a small chance we could also end up with catastrophic outcome. So we need to think about that now, and we need to take that risk seriously. Okay, and that gets us to questions and answers. Thank you. And for the recording, this will be the end.